wearing them. They're not wearing them.
But they don't care. They don't need to. Excuse me.
shut this off? I can shut this off for a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President. And our other very special guest this morning, who apparently needs no introduction, David Bowie. Doctorate recipients today. We have the wife of David Bowie, Iman, please stand. And with Wayne Shorter, speaker, is David Bowie. Mr. Bowie has been one of the most celebrated and influential musicians in popular music for over 30 years. A complete artist, Mr. Bowie has also starred in films and in the Broadway production of Elephant Man, and is, in addition, an accomplished artist and painter. Mr. Bowie has also shown himself to be extremely creative in the business world, too. Several of his successful pursuits involving internet enterprises and the sale of Bowie bonds secured by his record royalties have been widely hailed in the press. So you see, parents, fear not. Education and skill in music prepares one for many successes. President Berklee will address Mr. Bowie's remarkable career in more detail when we present the honorary doctorate. So at this point, it is simply my pleasure and honor to introduce to you our commencement speaker, David Bowie.
Thanks very much. Rockers, jazzers, samplers. That was a fantastic concert last night. Yeah, really. I think both Wayne and myself were just so moved to hear our compositions coming back at us through your ears and abilities. It was dynamite. You don't know how much we appreciated that. It was great. Rocks. I chatted with some of the students last night, and I asked one of them if he could give me a good joke to start today off with, and also his worst fear. And so I'll give you both. How does a tuba player answer the telephone? Hello, Domino's? Thank you, I says. Oh, I should remind you that anybody left over from the proceedings today can join my wife and I at Little Steve's for a slice. Dunkin' Donuts then, all right? I've got a message here from, well, this message is actually for administration, from my sometime collaborator and a fellow musician, Reeves Gabrels. Excellent. It says here, I haven't forgotten that $900 I owe for my last semester. I should point out that this has been owing since spring of 1980. He goes on, I read recently in Allegro that they are holding an unclaimed check for me backdating from my days with Tin Machine. Well, that should wipe out about $30 worth right there. As always on occasions like this, I really never know what to do, which is pretty much the way that I've handled my career as a musician, writer. I guess any list of advice I have to offer to a musician always ends with, if it itches, go and see a doctor. Real world. And that's not going to be of any help today. My sometimes collaborator, Brian Eno, described himself as a non-musician. In fact, he had it, well, he tried to get it put into his passport as his work definition. Non-musician? Making records? It's not a bloody non-musician. Anyway, I describe myself, I think, as a bit of a non-musician. I took classes initially after seeing the Little Richard Band on a film with, at that time, Britain's foremost baritone jazz player, Ronnie Ross. I was about, as I say, 14, and I gave him a phone. I found his number in the phone book, and he very kindly took me on. But I quickly found that what was written as it's a George Redman composition, West Coast band, 60s. You wouldn't know that. When I started playing it, it came out as and so it seemed that, I guess, authenticity and a natural form of expression wasn't going to be my forte. In fact, what I found that I was good at doing, and what I really enjoyed the most, was the game of what if. What if you combined Brecht-style musical drama with rhythm and blues? What happens if you transplant the French chanson with the Philly sound? Will Schoenberg lie comfortably with Little Richard? Can you put haggis and snails on the same plate? Well, no, but some of the ideas did work out very well. So I learned enough saxophone and guitar on what's euphemistically called composer's piano to get my ideas over to proper musicians, as we have here tonight. And then I went on a crusade, I suppose, to change the kind of information that rock music contained. I adored Coltrane, Harry Partch, Eric Dolphy, Velvet Underground, John Cage, Sonny Stitt. Unfortunately, I also loved Anthony Newley, Florence Foster Jenkins, Johnny Ray, Julie London, the legendary Stardust Cowboy, Edith Piaf, and Shirley Bassey. A word about Shirley Bassey. During the very early days of Ziggy Stardust, we often used to play these fairly grotty clubs called the working men's clubs. They were sort of like nightclubs, but you got a cheap meal, the whole family would come, a round of beer, a rock act, a stripper, sometimes one and the same. Well, backstage one night, I was desperate to use the bathroom. I was dressed in my full battle finery of Tokyo Space Boy and a pair of shoes high enough that it induced nosebleeds. And I went up to the promoter and I said, actually I tottered over to the promoter and I asked, could you please tell me where the lavatory is? And he said, yeah, look down that corridor. On the far end of that wall, You see that sink? There you go. I said, my good man, I'm not taking a piss in a sink. He said, listen, son, if it's good enough for Shirley Bassey, it's good enough for you. Rockers. From which I learned that mixing elements of bad taste with good will often produce the most interesting results. So in short, I didn't feel comfortable as a folk singer or an R&B singer or a balladeer. I was drawn more and more to the idea of manipulation of signs rather than individual expression. A concept that really had its start in the late 50s with pop art. And by the early 70s, I found myself making what British writer Simon Frith described as art pop. It wasn't so much about how I felt about things, but rather how things around me felt. To put it simply, I had discovered the Englishman's true place in rock and roll. This all sounds, I suppose, quite dispassionate, but believe me, still, even now, when I hear of the most fantastic solo being played on a CD and it's on the fade out, I still rush over to the volume switch and bring it up in proportion to the way it's fading down so I can catch that last note. It still is very much my life. It's impossible for me to talk about popular music without mentioning of probably my greatest mentor, John Lennon. I guess he defined for me at any rate how one could twist and turn the fabric of pop and imbue it with elements from other art forms, often producing something extremely beautiful, very powerful, and imbued with strangeness. Also, uninvited, John would wax endlessly about any topic under the sun and was over-endowed with opinions. I immediately felt empathy with that. Whenever the two of us got together, it started to resemble Beavis and Butthead on Crossfire. But the most seductive thing about John with his sense of humour, surrealistically enough, we were first introduced in about 1974 by Elizabeth Taylor. Miss Taylor had been trying to get me to make a movie with her. It involved going to Russia and wearing something red, gold, and diaphanous. Not terribly encouraging, really. I can't remember what it was called. It wasn't on the waterfront anyway, I don't know. We were in LA, and one night she had a party to which both John and I had been invited. I think we were polite with each other in that kind of older, younger way. Although there were only a few years between us, in rock and roll that's a generation, you know. Oh boy, is it ever. So John was sort of, oh, here comes another new one. And I was sort of, it's John Lennon. I don't know what to say. Don't mention the Beatles, you'll look really stupid. And he said, hello, Dave. And I said, I've got everything you made, except the Beatles. A couple of nights later, we found ourselves backstage at the Grammys, where I had to present the thing to Aretha Franklin. Before the show, I'd been telling John that I didn't think America really got what I did. No, I was misunderstood. Remember, I was in my 20s and out of my head. So the big moment came, and I ripped open the envelope and announced, the winner is Aretha Franklin. Aretha steps forward and with not so much as a glance in my direction, snatches the trophy out of my hands and says, thank you everybody, I'm so happy I could even kiss David Bowie. Which she didn't. And promptly spun around and swanned off stage right. So I slunk off stage left, and John bounds over and gives me a theatrical kiss and a hug. and says, "See, Dave, America loves you." We pretty much got on like a house on fire after that. He once famously described glam rock as just rock and roll with lipstick on. He was wrong, of course, but he was very funny. Towards the end of the 70s, a group of us went off to Hong Kong on a holiday, and John was in sort of house husband mode and wanted to show Sean the world. And during one of our expeditions through the back streets, a kid comes running up to him and says, "Are you John Lennon?" And he said, "No, but I wish I had his money," which I promptly stole for myself. "You David Bowie?" "No, but I wish I had his money." It's brilliant. It was such a wonderful thing to say. The kid said, "Oh, sorry, of course you are," and ran off. I thought, this is the most effective device I've heard. I was back in New York a couple of months later in Soho, downtown. Just samples. And a voice piped up in my ear, "Are you David Bowie?" And I said, "No, I wish I had his money." "You're lying, bastard, you wish you had my money." It was John Lennon. These are just a few moments from my life. This moment is very definitely yours. Thank you so much for indulging me for the last 10 minutes. I hope I've made it reasonably interesting for you. Music has given me over 40 years of extraordinary experiences. I can't say that life's pains or more tragic episodes have been diminished because of it, but it's allowed me so many moments of companionship when I've been lonely, and a sublime means of communication when I wanted to touch people. It's been both my doorway of perception and the house that I live in. I only hope that it embraces you with the same lusty life force that it graciously offered me. Thank you very much, and remember, if it itches, play it.
Sharing with humor and personal anecdote and insight so much of his life's experience with us as principal speaker. Among the bright lights of the popular music world, very few have burned as brightly and for as long as that of David Bowie. While many musicians labor to hone an identifiable image and sound, David Bowie has found tremendous success without categorization. During his spectacular 33-year career, he has reshaped his musical style and image numerous times. The 31 albums he has released as a leader have positioned him on the cutting edge of glam rock, avant-pop, electronica, and dance pop, and yielded numerous hit songs. A multi-talented artist, David Bowie has also acted in 19 films and on Broadway. His paintings have been exhibited in numerous museums and galleries in London, Cologne, Basel, Florence, and elsewhere. In 1966, David Bowie began working as a singer and saxophonist in London's dance hall bands. His first recording to hit the charts was Space Oddity in 1969. He followed that with 3 successful albums and the unveiling of his theatrical Ziggy Stardust stage persona, making him the most visible proponent of glam rock. By 1975, Bowie had gravitated toward an R&B influenced sound. His Young Americans album yielded 2 huge hits, the record's title cut and Fame, which was co-written with John Lennon and Carlos Alomar. Fame became Bowie's first #1 hit in the US. The following year, he starred in the film The Man Who Fell to Earth. This, his fifth film, brought wide public recognition of his acting abilities. Throughout the late 1970s and early 80s, David Bowie was working on a number of projects. High points included the hit song Golden Years from the Station to Station album, and 3 avant-pop collaborations with keyboardist Brian Eno. He also starred in 3 films and in the 1980 Broadway production of Elephant Man. In 1983, Bowie released the album Let's Dance, which yielded 3 international hits and has been the most successful recording of Bowie's career thus far. Over the years, David Bowie has supported numerous philanthropic projects, including the 1985 Live Aid concert to support famine relief efforts, and Artists for War Children, a humanitarian effort to benefit children in war zones. Throughout the 1990s, Bowie has released 6 albums and appeared in 6 films. In 1996, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Last year, Bowie turned his attention to several innovative business ventures. He became the first rock musician to sell bonds backed by the future royalties of his records. He also launched the widely hailed BowieNet Internet service provider. And so, for his many creative endeavors that have influenced the course of popular music, the countless hours of joy his music has brought to millions of listeners, and the example he has set as a musical entrepreneur, my pleasure to bestow the honorary Doctor of Music degree on David Bowie.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm setting up. Thanks a lot.
Those in the college suggested I might share with you. Adelakan, or Needy as he prefers to be called, comes to Berklee from Lagos, Nigeria, and speaks movingly of his father staying in the office until 1 a.m. for weeks, exchanging frantic phone calls and faxes with him to work out the all-important details of payments, bank statements, visa issues, and the like that were needed before driving home 20 miles away along dark dirt roads in the suburbs of Lagos. A singer who has brought the house down at major Berklee concerts, is a performance major and an excellent pianist. Jonathan graduated with the highest honors from the Ramon School of Jazz and Contemporary Music in Israel. Jonathan has taken most of our demanding courses and excelled, earning a near-perfect grade point average along the way. He is a terrific student and a model student who will graduate from Berklee in just 4 semesters of attendance. This excellence would be extraordinary for any student, but is even more remarkable because Jonathan has not let the fact that he is blind interfere with his dream of becoming a top-notch professional musician. As a young teenager growing up in Belgrade, Yugoslavia, Alma Vucinic spent many hours listening to the great jazz vocalists Sarah Vaughan, Billie Holiday, and Ella Fitzgerald. She began performing at age 16 with the National Big Band and gigging with small jazz groups in Belgrade clubs. At age 18, she entered law school at the University of Belgrade, but the dream of coming to Berklee and pursuing a career in music was never out of her mind. Alma's scholarship audition captured the attention of the voice department chairs and faculty who advocated intensely on her behalf. And 4 months later, with significant support, Alma left home and family behind.
With a major in contemporary writing and production, Sue Ayan An. Seung Jung Chan. Chiping Ho. Soo Young Kim. Takako Kuniyuki. David Esteban Mora. Soko Morikawa. Christian Valencia. Naidi Vanasari. Himeko Yamamoto. With a major in contemporary writing and production and film scoring, Kenichi Nakamura. Major in film scoring, Martha V. Bourne. Hideo Inami. Yun Yang Lee. Yuna Park. Ronaldo Marasigan Patural. Marcus Venderer. Diana A. Sanina. Tom Chanak Tran. With a major in jazz composition, Yoon Chung Kim. Leung Hee Kwok. Jung Jik Lee. Oscar Alberto Martinez Michele. Wale S. Michich. Keiko Hana Manimi. Toyomi Soji. Yutaka Uchida. With a major in jazz composition and performance, Sachiko Yasui. With a major in music production and engineering, Scott David Eisenberg. Yang Jun Wong. Ho-Kun Kim. Jae-Hwan Koo. Lee Kyung Lee. Eri Nagaishi. Son Yoon Oh. Yuki Honda. Sun Young Park. Frederick Rubens. Yoon Young Soon. Wolfgang von Wang. With a major in music production and engineering and music synthesis. With a major in music synthesis. Harry Tony D. High. Sheng Fong Hua. Takeshi Iazumi. Seung Young Cameron. Yuko Takahashi. Minko Yeo. With a major in performance, Michael Anderson. Massimo F.L. Iotati. Raid Michelle El-Kazen. Yvonne Fasandero. Robert O'Neill Gingery III. Shoto Hashiyama. Otohiko Uchino. Toshi Iyo. Ryoki Italia. Sujong Kai. Taichi Kamamura. Takafumi Kawashima. Michael Phelps Kelly. Jungbai Kim. Eric H. Kloss. Sino Ismael Kuchik Yale Diro. Gregory Lamy. Nu Kyung Lee. Kenji Masuda. Alfred Malik. George Velikashvili. Georgios Mikula. Katsuo Nakamura. Eiji Obata. Aya Osada. Kayun Hayuk Park. Andrea Pinto Correa. Javier Reyes. Kimihiro Sadakuni. Ryo Sasaki. Tatsuro Shibayama. Saul Sierra Alonso. Yoonju Song. Keita Takano. Masanoli Tanaguchi. Avram Michael Sangalidis. Aldemar Alfredo Valentin. Yoshiwaki. Devian Sifri. The major in performance and songwriting, Ichiro Yokoyama. The major in professional music, Kiho Chan.
How much of this do you want, Liz?
Jose La Guerra de Salfino. Yuri Jamal. Hassan Doikin.